Okay, cool. Here you are. You made it. We're about to start embroidering. You are going to be a needleworker in minutes. Okay, take your floss. First thing you need to know is how to pull your floss. Ha. So you've got this handy little package here, and you want to keep your tabs on your floss to keep it organized. But you'll see that there's always one dangly bit. That's the one you want to pull. Hold your bundle of floss and gently pull the dangly bit. You only want like this much, no more, no less. No more, because a floss's job is to knot, and it's going to become the bane of your existence if you're not careful or if you take too much. So this much floss, and then you're just gonna give it a little snip. So the floss that you're working with right now is made up of 6 strands. And you can think of that as sort of the weight of like a pencil, right? 6 strands is gonna be a pretty heavy lead. And so for most embroidery, you're gonna wanna use less than that. I usually work with 2 or 3 strands at a time. So for today, we're gonna work with 3 strands. So you're gonna split your piece of thread in 2, basically, into 2 groups of 3. And you're gonna do it real slow. Otherwise, it's gonna make a knot and you're gonna be super sad. You're ready to thread a needle. Get your tapestry needle ready. It's got the giant eye, so this will be easy breezy. The thing about embroidery is there's a lot of DNA involved. So you're naturally going to be licking thread all the time. In order to get this through that needle, you gotta give it a lick. Get used to it. All right, your needle is threaded. Here's the deal, this is not like sewing. You're gonna have a short tail and a long tail. And you're gonna be working with the long tail. So that's the tail you need to knot. Make one small knot at the end of your long tail. Just enough to hold it in place. You're ready to start stitching. Grab your hoop. Look for a natural starting point on your pattern or your drawing. And bring your needle up through the back side of the fabric. Pull it gently until the knot catches on the back. Remember that short tail from before? You need to keep an eye on it, because as you start stitching, you're gonna start using up your long tail. And if you're not keeping track and slowly creating a shorter tail, you're gonna end up stitching it right in there, and you're gonna have a hot mess, and you're not gonna want that. All right, so we're ready to take our first stitch. This is called back stitch. It's basically just drawing with a needle and thread. You're gonna bring your needle down through the fabric, usually like a centimeter in length. It doesn't really matter how long your stitch is, as long as you're consistent with the length of your stitches moving forward. The second stitch is coming up through the back. This is where you start to actually back stitch. So you're bringing the needle up through the back, and here's the important part. You're coming down in the same hole as your last stitch. Share the hole, people. This is important. This is how you create a straight line without any gaps. There you go, you have your first back stitch. Now you're just gonna keep doing that. You're gonna be coming up, being really careful to keep your stitches the exact same length, and you're gonna come down by sharing the hole. When you try to stick to your lines, it's a little like coloring, right? You wanna stay in the lines. With this, you wanna stay on the lines of your pattern. As you're stitching, every now and then, you just wanna take a second and let your thread dangle and just work your hand down it so that it untangles, so that you don't have knots. Knots are the worst. Keep an eye on the back side of your piece while you're stitching, because sometimes suddenly there's a knot there and you're 15 stitches ahead and you can't figure out what just happened, and then you have to unstitch the whole thing, and it's just real sad. So look for knots as you're working. Knots are gonna happen, it's not a big deal. Your goal is a clean backside. Just like, as long as the front looks good, you're good. But you know when a professional has been embroidering, because you flip it over and there's a clean backside, it looks just like the front. That's what we're aiming for eventually. So what happens when you start to get really low on your thread and you're not sure if you can keep going? No big deal. You're just gonna finish your thread off and start a new thread the same way that you were before. So you're gonna flip your piece over, you're gonna take your needle, and you're gonna run it underneath a couple of the stitches, and then you can either decide to knot it using your needle, or if it's secure enough, you can just pull it through and snip it. Then all you're gonna do is take a new piece of floss, thread the back, and commence stitching again. You can also swap out colors or change it up at that point. You're an embroiderer now, you just embroidered. That just happened. When you finish, so you just keep stitching, right? Like Dory says. When you finish, you have a couple options. You have, I mean, it's pre-framed, right? This hoop is a beautiful frame. So you can just like sew up the back and hang it on the wall. Or you can pop it out of the hoop, iron it up and put it in a real frame. You can do whatever you want with it. You can turn it into a patch, you can sew it on a jacket, you can sew it on a bag, do whatever you want. There's so many options. So congratulations, I'm so proud of you, and I'm really grateful that you just learned and taught yourself how to embroider. Digital analog balance, people, we're doing this thing. One other thing I want to tell you about, I've got a global craftivism project going on called Badass Herstory, and I want you involved. Now that you embroider, the next logical step is to participate in something bigger than yourself. So check it out. Let me know if you're interested. Ask any questions. There's tons of information. I want you involved. You can also get a bunch of free patterns on my website, badasscrossstitch.com. There's 52 different stitching tutorials on there that you can use to teach yourself other stitches. And don't forget to head over to Instagram and let's chat it up over there, Badass Cross Stitch. You can see what I'm working on. We can talk about stuff. I'm really proud of you, and I'm grateful that you came and that you spent the time, and I look forward to seeing everything that you're working on. I want to see all of it. If you have any questions, hit me up. I'm proud of you. Good job.